Hey, what's up, guys? So, today we're going to talk about who's really behind gang stalking. And what I mean by that is who's got the time, the money, and the resources to follow people around and mess with their heads and try to destroy their lives day in and day out. Now, a lot of us targets have heard the name Ted Gunderson. This guy wasn't just anybody, he was a former high ranking FBI agent who straight up came out and said there are rogue groups inside law enforcement doing this. He called it organized harassment. He said they were stalking innocent civilians and trying to break them down. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a whistleblower who used to work for the system. And what happened to him? He ended up dead under suspicious circumstances. So when he tried to get the word out, someone made sure he was silenced. That alone tells you this goes deep. Then there's a theory that we've been put on a government watch list by the Department of Homeland Security. Some people believe that the second you end up on that list, certain networks get the green light to harass you. And if that's true, that would explain the resources behind this kind of stalking. But here's the thing, none of us really know. We're all just trying to piece this puzzle together from the outside. InfraGard is another name that comes up, and that's a public-private partnership between the FBI and businesses across America. Their job is to keep the infrastructure safe. But some folks believe they've taken that a step further and started targeting people they think are a threat. And then there's COINTELPRO. This was a real government program where the FBI targeted activists, civil rights leaders, and anyone they thought was too loud. They spied on people, spread lies, sabotaged lives, and it's all documented. So if they did it before, why wouldn't they do it again? So if you're asking yourself, why me? Why am I being followed, watched, harassed? Why are random strangers acting like they know me, trying to provoke me or messing with my head? That's a big question that everyone wants answers to. But the deeper you dig, the more you realize this ain't just happening to you. This is happening to a lot of people across the world. So the question becomes, who's doing this? Who's got the kind of reach to make this happen on a global scale? Let's start with Ted Gunderson, one of the first people with real credentials to speak out about this. He was a former senior FBI agent who ran the FBI's Los Angeles office and spent years investigating organized harassment. This man wasn't just guessing. He said flat out that rogue groups within law enforcement are carrying this out. People operating inside the system, but not for the system. In other words, not official FBI orders, just groups within who use their power to abuse innocent people. He talked about people being stalked, followed, and intimidated. He talked about high-tech surveillance, hidden microphones, people being poisoned, harassed at work, home and church. This is a guy who saw it firsthand and tried to speak out. And just like other whistleblowers, he ended up dead. They say that Ted died of cancer, but many believe he was poisoned. And this was right after he started speaking more publicly and helping targeted individuals. You gotta ask yourself, why would someone risk everything, their career, their name, if it wasn't real? Now let's talk about one of the most common theories, being placed on a government watch list. Some people think it's the Department of Homeland Security, that they've been flagged as threats, even if they never committed a crime. Now you ask if DHS really has programs to track people, and the answer is yes, that's documented. But what's not proven is whether they're giving random people the go-ahead to follow and harass citizens. Some people think that there's a secret tiered watch list system, and those lower tiers might just be for surveillance. In those situations, DHS or its contractors could be outsourcing it to third-party networks. This is where InfraGard comes in. InfraGard is a program where the FBI works with private companies. Think utilities, transportation, communications, and tech. Basically, the infrastructure. The idea is to keep America safe, but the way some people see it, this is a network of businesses and citizens who have gone way beyond just watching for terrorism. Now let's talk about COINTELPRO. This was an FBI program that ran from the 1950s through the 70s. Its goal? To disrupt, discredit, and destroy people the government saw as threats. We're talking civil rights leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panthers, anti-war protesters, and Native American activists. They were all watched, followed, and threatened. The FBI sent fake letters to break up marriages, got people fired, spread lies, all of it covert and illegal. And the crazy thing is, it worked for decades because people thought it was a conspiracy until documents were leaked and the truth came out. So this is what makes gang stalking so believable today, because they've done it before and the only thing that's changed is the technology. Now let's talk about another big theory that comes up a lot, and that's the Freemasons. A lot of people believe that the Freemasons are heavily involved with gang stalking. Why? Well, for one, they've been around forever and their lodges are in almost every city and small town. They've got the money, resources, connections in law enforcement, courts, and politics. Their symbols are all over the place, and their roots go way back. Some even tie them to the New World Order agenda: control, surveillance, domination, that kind of thing. And if you really think about it, for a group like the Freemasons to be involved in gang stalking, they would have the network and resources to make it work. But here's the thing, we can't say for sure they're the ones behind it all. They might be one part of a bigger picture. Maybe some individuals in the group are involved, but whether it's officially sanctioned by the organization, that's hard to prove. But still, it's worth paying attention to, especially when you start seeing the same symbols and patterns pop up in stalking stories across the country. Now, what about church groups? You wouldn't think they'd be involved, right? But I gotta be real, there are a lot of reports from TIs who say that people from their churches or religious communities are part of the harassment. It might be subtle, like giving you weird looks, whispering, isolating you socially, or it might be more direct. Here's one theory. Maybe they think they're doing something good, like volunteering for some community watch program. Maybe they got told that you were a threat and that you needed to be watched. And if that's the case, they might be participating without even realizing how deep this thing goes. That brings us to local community task forces. These are your neighborhood watch groups, anti-crime coalitions, and city safety teams. On the surface, they're just regular people trying to keep the neighborhood safe. But if they're given false intel about you, or if someone tells them that you're a criminal or unstable, they might be used as tools in the stalking campaign without even knowing it. And because they think that they're doing the right thing, they don't question it. So here's what I think, and this is strictly my opinion. I don't believe every person involved in the harassment knows what they're doing or how much harm it causes. I also don't believe all these groups are connected. Some might be totally unaware of what the others are doing. That's why you'll see different types of harassment in different areas. It's not always the same group running the show. And that disconnection, that makes it even harder for people to prove this is happening, because there's no clear structure. It's like a bunch of small fires being lit from different matches. Now, here's where things get a little shady. The money trail. Let's be real, gang stalking isn't free. You need time, resources, people, surveillance, equipment, vehicles, communication. That kind of coordination takes cash, so who's funding it? Another theory that keeps coming up is insurance companies. Yeah, that sounds crazy at first, but if you think about it, insurance companies have billions of dollars and huge interest in risk management. If someone files a claim, gets injured on the job, or sues for damages, that person becomes a financial liability. So what if these companies started hiring private investigators or surveillance teams to monitor these people? Now let's take that a step further. What if they're not just watching? What if they're provoking, harassing on purpose, trying to get you to slip up and lose your own credibility? That way they avoid a payout or deny your claim completely. Then you've got private security firms and defense contractors. These companies already work with the government, especially Homeland Security, the FBI, even local police departments. And they've got access to surveillance gear, facial recognition, AI tracking systems, drones, you name it. If this was part of a larger control system, these are the people who'd be running it, quietly, efficiently, with no fingerprints left behind. And here's what makes it all possible. Unlimited funding from government contracts. Think of all the anti-terrorism money being thrown around since 9/11. Think of all the grants for homeland safety and the infrastructure protection. This money's got to go somewhere. But like I said before, this is not 100% proven, but the infrastructure is already there and the programs exist. So it's not a far stretch to think that some of these funds are being misused. Now, here's another theory that keeps coming up, and it's one that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But we need to talk about it, because whether it's true for everyone or not, the pattern keeps showing up. Some people believe that white supremacist groups may be involved in gang stalking. I know that may sound extreme, but let's break it down. Throughout history, white supremacist ideologies have always found ways to blend into systems of power. Law enforcement, politics, the military, private security firms. Not everyone in those fields, of course, but some people, some groups quietly move in and build networks under the radar. Now think about this. If you were part of a racist extremist group and you wanted to operate without getting caught, where would you go? You'd go where there's access to surveillance, databases, community programs, and legal cover. You'd hide in plain sight and you'd twist the idea of keeping the community safe. And what if gangstalking was a perfect tool for that? Let's say you wanted to target certain kinds of people, maybe based on race, beliefs, religion, or just for speaking out against injustice. You wouldn't need to wear a hood or wave a flag. You'd just label your targets as suspicious, unstable, or a threat. You could rally your group or use other networks you're tied into and harass someone 24/7 under the guise of neighborhood watch or community safety. And what makes it even worse, some of these white supremacist groups don't just want to stay small. A lot of them believe in the New World Order agenda. They want global chaos so they can rebuild the world in their twisted image. Some of them don't care about race as much anymore. Some have shifted into a broader ideology of total control, domination, and social engineering. It's about power and destruction under whatever label is convenient. So are they helping with the globalist agenda? It's very possible. In fact, they might be being used as pawns. Think about it. They get promised power, influence, protection, maybe even funding through back channels. But at the end of the day, they're still being used to do the bidding of a bigger machine. Some researchers believe they've infiltrated certain law enforcement agencies, maybe even gained protection from high-ranking officials who share their views or turn a blind eye. You hear stories, whistleblowers saying there's extremist elements in certain departments, not the whole system, but rogue factions. And that lines up with what Ted Gunderson said too. Rogue groups operating inside law enforcement and government, abusing their power from within. And let's not forget, gangstalking doesn't always need high-tech government tools. Sometimes it's just people on the ground doing the dirty work with permission or protection from above. These supremacist networks could be behind some of it. Not all, but some. Enough to warrant serious attention. Again, this theory might not apply to every situation, but for certain targets, especially minorities, activists, and whistleblowers, or people who go against the mainstream narrative, it's worth considering. It fits the pattern of how these groups operate: hidden, protected, well-funded, and ruthless. And if that's the case, it's even more urgent that we speak up and shine a light on this darkness, because when groups like that are given power, nobody is safe. So here's something that needs to be said, because it doesn't get said enough. Not every targeted individual is being stalked by the same group. Some people swear it's the Freemasons, others say it's DHS. Some say it's their church, others their job, or even their family, and you know what? They all might be right in their own cases. The mistake that most people make is they think everyone's situation must be the same, but that's not how gangstalking works. This isn't one giant machine, it's a bunch of smaller gears moving at the same time, sometimes connected, sometimes not. You might be targeted by one group in your town, while someone across the country is being harassed by a totally different group, with totally different motives. That's why no two TI stories sound exactly alike. Sure, the patterns are similar: stalking, smear campaigns, noise harassment, gaslighting, but the people doing it, they might not even know each other. And another important thing is, don't let anyone tell you that just because your experience doesn't match theirs, that you're not a real TI. That's nonsense. Everyone's case is personal. Everyone's pain is real. Some are hit harder than others. Some are stalked in more aggressive ways. That doesn't make anyone's experience less valid. And just because someone says it's a certain group doesn't mean it's true for you. You might see people online swearing it's the Freemasons or law enforcement or satanic cults, but what if your case has nothing to do with that? What if it's a corrupt ex-employer, or a bitter ex-lover, or a neighbor with too much time and influence, or a local volunteer group that got bad intel? So you see how all this can get pretty messy. That's why it's important to stay open-minded but cautious. Don't assume, don't accuse, look for patterns, look for evidence, but don't jump to conclusions. That's how they want us to look, like we're paranoid, unstable, or just making stuff up. That's why we've got to stay sharp and grounded. Now let's zoom out for a bit and look at the whole picture. Gangstalking isn't just random harassment. It's not just a few angry neighbors, jealous coworkers, or bitter exes. There's a bigger picture here, a deeper motive, and it all points to control. You see, the way this system operates, by targeting individuals, wearing them down, isolating them, pushing them to the edge, it's not just about ruining lives, it's about setting a precedent. If they can do this to one person and nobody believes them, then they can do it to anyone. Think about it. Who benefits from us being distracted, depressed, and divided? The elites, the globalists, the ones pulling the strings behind the scenes. They want chaos, they want confusion, they want a society where people don't trust each other, where neighbors turn into spies and communities get weaponized. Why? Because in chaos, control becomes easier. That's when they come in with the solution. More surveillance, more laws, more restrictions, more technology watching your every move. And because people are scared and desperate, they'll accept it. It's a classic tactic. Create the problem, then offer the solution that gives you more power. Gangstalking plays perfectly into this. It breaks the spirit of strong, independent people. People who think for themselves, who question the system, who challenge the authority. By making us look unstable, paranoid, or mentally ill, they discredit the truth we're trying to tell. The more this grows, the more dangerous it becomes. Not just for TIs, but society as a whole. We're seeing the same tactics used in other places. Cancel culture, censorship, economic manipulation, social engineering through media. It's all about breaking people down so they'll submit. And the thing is, they're doing it in every country. Different names, different programs, same method. It's not just America, it's global. This is part of the New World Order playbook, a slow, quiet takeover, not with tanks and bombs, but with fear, control, psychological warfare, and digital surveillance. And gangstalking, it's just one of those tools. Alright, now that we've laid out the picture, what can we do about it? Because yeah, this is dark and it's heavy, but you don't have to let it break you. The first thing I'll tell you is to stay confident. That's one of the biggest weapons you have in this battle. Walk with your head high, talk with calmness, carry yourself like you're untouchable. Because here's the thing, they want to provoke you. They want you to explode. They want you to lash out so they can get you on camera, or worse, get you caught up with the law. That's why you gotta be smart. Don't engage, don't argue, and don't react. When they follow you, act like you don't see it. When they mock you, act like you don't hear it. When they bait you, just stay stoic to the bone. Because the moment you show reaction, they feel like they're winning. You gotta be calm in this storm. A warrior never flinches. And here's the most important part. Pray. Stay connected to God. You might not have all the answers right now, and you might feel abandoned, like no one understands what you're going through. But trust me, God sees it all. He sees the lies, the setups, and all the injustice. And I want you to remember what the Bible says. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. That's not just a verse, it's a promise. You don't need to retaliate. You don't need revenge. You don't need to stoop to their level. Let God fight those battles. Let him handle the people who think they're getting away with evil. Because their time is coming. If you're a targeted individual, I want you to hear me on this. You're not crazy, and you're not weak, and you're definitely not alone. You're being put through something most people can't even begin to understand. And while the rest of the world walks around in a fog, you're living in a daily battle. But guess what? You're still here. You've made it this far. That makes you stronger than they ever expected. Now, to the people out there who don't believe this is real, who think gangstalking is just a conspiracy or that TIs are imagining it, ask yourself this. What do these people gain from making this up? Why would so many different people in different places with different backgrounds all report the same patterns? Harassment, surveillance, gaslighting, character assassination, break-ins, noise campaigns? Why would they risk ridicule, isolation, and being labeled mentally ill? The answer is simple. Because it's real, and it's time people started taking it seriously. We live in a world where corruption runs deep, where whistleblowers are silenced, where innocent people are made into examples, and where shadow groups and government programs have a long history of dirty operations. Examples of this corruption were COINTELPRO and MKUltra. Gangstalking didn't come out of nowhere, it evolved. This isn't just science fiction. This is happening, and if you ignore it now, you might be next. The goal isn't just to ruin lives, it's to shape society, To create a future where speaking the truth gets you labeled unstable, where asking questions gets you watched, where anyone who doesn't comply becomes a target. If we don't start exposing this system and standing together, that future isn't far off. So to every TI out there, hold your ground. Stay strong, stay smart, stay faithful. Expose what you can when you can, but don't lose yourself in the process. Protect your energy, speak the truth, live with integrity. Because your life has meaning. Your voice still matters. Alrighty guys, I hope this video helps. Stay safe, stay vigilant, stay blessed out there.